Singapore's roadsides are lined with green, and many of these trees are planted when they're much smaller. But how do they get there in the first place? For a behind-the-scenes look, we met up with someone from the National Parks Board. We got Jia Hwa, the director of Streetscape, Landscape Branch, to tell us more.
So one of the first things we ask ourselves is what we want to achieve for the location. Is it to provide shade, or provide aesthetic, or even for screening purpose? Screening is basically planting a row of trees very closely together, about 2 meters apart. It's basically to screen off objects that you don't really want to see, reduce the harshness of the cityscape. So if I were to go for shade, I'll be looking at trees that have a large crown or wide spreading canopy. If I'm going for aesthetic, I'll be looking at trees that can produce attractive flowers or even have colourful foliage. If it's for screening, then it's a totally different thing. I'll be looking at trees that can really grow up very tall and yet it's still able to retain its lower branches, have thick and leafy foliage. So this is an example of the Legus Romeo Floribunda red, which gives an aesthetic appeal for its red foliage. We have some trees that provide shade and aesthetic, so the handkerchief tree is one of these examples. And why is it called the handkerchief tree is because you see its young red, young flushes. It droops down like a handkerchief. This is why it's called a handkerchief tree. In NParks, we have our own nursery. What happened in this nursery is my colleagues will go and collect the seeds and start to propagate them and slowly nurture them to a decent size, usually about 3 to 4 meters, before we actually deliver them to site for planting. Over the past 4 years, we have planted more than 40,000 trees along the streets each year. After the trees have been selected for the site, we'll upload them onto the lorry crane. The larger specimens, they are much taller, so they will be lie down onto the lorry bed. Once the tree is delivered to site, we will usually prepare a planting hole for it. It's usually about 1 meter cube. That means 1 by 1 meter, and the soil depth is also about 1 meter. We also provide staking. Basically, we'll provide a galvanized steel pipe just beside the tree. The staking is to provide support and prop the tree upright, to give the tree some time to develop its roots. At the base of the tree, there are 2 things we need to do. One is to provide the PVC guard. So this is to prevent the tree base from being injured during the grass cutting operation. Then the last step is to apply a layer of wood chips, and the purpose of the wood chip is to retain the moisture content in the soil and also to suppress the weed growth. After planting in, we have to continue to maintain the tree for a period of 8 weeks. This is what we call the establishment period. NParks is always looking out for hardy and drought-tolerant tree species, because you will notice in the recent months, from February to April and May, there was a prolonged dry spell, a bit like a drought like that. So thankfully, we do have in place some drought-tolerant tree species, like the Poteria obovata and the Neolacea zenanica. In the first place, you should not even think about that. Although trees bring about many benefits, but tree doesn't shield or protect you from the lightning. So please go and find a proper shelter.